Hello, I'm so happy to be here with you again on Manifestation Mondays with Marcy. Now, as you know, we've been talking about all the different things that influence your both mindset and heart set. And one of the things that we'll be talking about, particularly in the workshop that I'll be doing in just a couple of weeks, is we're going to be examining the difference between the heart set and the mindset. But one of the things that I want to really emphasize today is that you might have noticed we're not exactly following a typical path for manifestation. In other words, you might have heard in the past where somebody said to you, this is the formula for manifestation. First, you have to ask for what you want, then you need to believe, then you need to visualize and align, and then allow, and then receive it. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's pretty much how I taught manifestation for quite a while. Until I had, well, let's just call it an enlightenment. It's where I began to understand it on a completely different level. Now, granted, following that formula, that path, I certainly had some outrageous manifestations, but nothing compared to what I experience now and what those who I work with experience now. And here's why. What I've come to understand is that as linear as we believe this path to be, it isn't, because we never, ever are living a linear life. Even though it may appear that we are, it might appear that day always follows night and night always follows day, and that one day just leads to the next, and then we have a week and a month, and the months make up a year, etc., etc. It's not the way it works. You see, there are things taking place simultaneously that greatly influence your ability to be successful in manifesting. So you might be saying, well, Marcy, then how do any of us ever get anything done? How can you possibly be keeping track of all of these things? So from my perspective, there's only one thing you have to keep track of. Well, one major thing. And that is that even as you're going through all of those other steps, you must be paying attention to your belief state in that moment. So we know, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, your belief state shifts all the time. You can wake up some morning and just be completely out of sorts and not believe in anything, not believe even that the sun will shine or that this day is, unlimited in its possibilities for you. You might wake up all disgruntled or maybe even angry. You might wake up and be completely disenfranchised from life or your loved ones. Why does that happen? Where does that come from? Well, one of the things that we know is that while we are sleeping, we are very active. In fact, we're very much at work, you might say. And what's happening on what seems to be an unconscious level is playing out in our dream life. It's also playing out in how the subconscious is sort of coming to terms with certain things in our lives. How do we know this? Well, we know that there are different levels of sleep, right? Different aspects of sleep and frequency that we experience while we're sleeping. We know that some dreams are seem to be happy, some dreams are disturbing. I know for myself, I went through a period where I had recurrent nightmares, and I should say actually that I thought that they were recurrent nightmares, but in actuality they were panic attacks. And so my sleep state was greatly affected by a tremendous level of stress that I was experiencing in my daytime life that I wouldn't allow myself to look at. That was a long, long time ago. And I'm happy to report hasn't happened since. But I'll share more about that at another time. What I want you to know is because we are never really at sleep, meaning we're never really not addressing energetically the issues that are taking place in our life. What that is telling us is that we must build a more conscious awareness in our awake state so that we can do more healing during our sleep state. In other words, it doesn't have to be this agitated form of attempt at rest. Instead, we can be more connected to healing and, of course, to finding answers with guidance and creative ideas. So I want to talk to you about using also your sleep state to enhance your manifestation. Now, like I said, one of these things that is required is that we become more consciously aware of what we are dealing with, both emotionally, psychologically, physically, and also on a mental level. What are we allowing into our psyche? What has the predominant focus of our attention? This is really important because if it is adversarial to our truth, I want you to know that during your sleep state, you will be trying to work this through. And that is why we wake up sometimes agitated or angry, disgruntled, or feeling separate from life itself. Now you have a continuation of that, and we can fall into a full-fledged depression or deep symptoms of anxiety caused by that stress. So when we're talking about manifestation, I want you to start to really recognize yourself as an all-encompassed sphere of energy that is influenced by what comes into itself, into that sphere, and that you being the consciousness of that sphere, you can determine what has the most influence. Now, I know I'm talking in, some esoteric ways in some regard, but I believe that you're sophisticated enough to take this information in. So I want to give you a little recommendation about something that you can do to become more aware during your daylight hours as well as your nighttime hours. So let's look at it. Knowing that everything that comes into your sphere of awareness or unawareness is having an effect, an impact on energetically your ability to function with other spheres of influence. We are being called to step into an acceptance that you are the creative genius that has been sent here to create. Please start accepting that. Given that, you have also been given all of the capabilities of doing this. And so we need to start to accept that you have an aspect of yourself that's always connected to that genius. And it's constantly feeding you information. As humans, you very often are experiencing the information as a sensation even before it becomes an emotion. I'm going to say it again. You may experience it as a sensation even before it becomes an emotion. I want you to understand what's happening. Your higher self is bringing you this information, and it's saying, as a creative genius, you're being called to refocus your attention, because your attention is what is going to create something. You get this information. It comes to you in a sensation to get your attention. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's, a bad taste in your mouth. Maybe it is a little pain in your temple, or maybe it's a cramp on one of your sides, or something in your gut, something in your stomach area. Maybe it's a cramp in your leg. Maybe it's, in other words, sensations are sensations. Now, we sometimes refer to them as feelings, but you're feeling the sensation. So I want to differentiate between feeling an emotion and feeling a sensation. Very important. Okay? Now, if you just go about your business and ignore that, what happens? What do you think happens in that moment? The ego aspect of you immediately jumps up and says, ha 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 ha, oh, I've got her now. She doesn't even believe her higher self that's bringing her this information. And what does it do? It immediately distracts you and says, look at this over here. This is what I promise you. What happens in that moment? That you have denied your higher self. You've closed off that communication, and you have now directed your focus to be led by the ego, which has one thing in its mind, and that is to distract you so that you never remember that you are a creative genius. That little stinker. So you can see how it sabotages our efforts all the time. And what's happened is that we've become so accustomed to following the loud voice, the smoke screen, the distraction, the pretty flashing lights, all of that kind of thing, instead of the soft prodding from our higher self that simply says, follow me. What happens is we then begin to distrust. But what are we distrusting? In actuality, it's where we learn to distrust ourselves. Yeah. We have just learned to distrust ourselves. And every time we do that, we distrust ourselves more and more and more. And the gap between where we are and where we want to be becomes greater and greater. So this is what I'm going to leave you with for this week. And that is to pay attention to that gap between where you are and where you want to be. Pay attention to the sensations that you are experiencing, and rather than allowing your ego to distract you, you, being the conscious genius that you are, having everything within you in order to be successful, do this. Bring yourself back front and center and say, oh, it is my intention to trust myself and my higher self that will never, ever lead me astray. So imagine if you do this constantly during the day when you have caught yourself. What do you suppose you could do at night? Before you go to sleep at night, set another intention. And let this intention be: higher self, teach me, guide me, help me to see and to feel the sensations of your guidance faster, clearer, and of course, with a greater trust that all is well and that you will never lead me astray. What will happen during the night is what will also happen during the day. Your higher self will set about, as the universe sets about, to respond to you and give you everything that you've asked for. And so you may notice in your dreams that you come across situations where you are making a decision about which voice to listen to, which aspect of you to embrace. Is it the one that responds to the shiny lights, the bling, the distractions, or is it the one where you are simply there, completely connected, aligned with your higher self, ready, willing, and able to follow its urgings? I can't wait to hear what you experience this week. This is your birthright. You are already hardwired for success in doing this. Set your intention for both your day and your night. Why not get everything working for you in a conscious way? Let your higher self know that you're ready to partner with it. You're going to put aside all those distractions and say, here I am. I have come. So much love to you. Can't wait to hear all about it. Alrighty. See you next week for Manifestation Mondays with Marcy.